Chapter 6. As the letter suggests, it takes a day and a half to travel to the farm, at least on foot. On horseback, he can make it in a day or less. However, he takes it easy with Creekbed. Rosner spends the night at Farmer Hilgren's, who is more than welcoming. He tries to offer a talent in thanks, but the old woman refuses, saying,
"It is always a pleasure to have you. I only wish my husband were here to see how you have grown."
Then she offers him some bread, which he happily accepts after a failed attempt to gently refuse the offer. Rosner paces back and forth along the tree line west of the mill. Creekbed grazes with the cows nearby, not paying him any attention. The life-giver has just taken to her throne, and Ylsa is not to be found. She needs to hurry. There have been strange happenings lately, and though he cannot see or understanding them either, Ylsa is probably the only person who will openly listen to him. He needs to tell someone about Casper and the old man, and the fountain. Before, it did not seem worth sharing that he is clumsy, but something weird is going on. He can feel it. But then again, this is all just too coincidental. He has only seen Ylsa occasionally for the past cycle, and as happy as he is to see her, he cannot help but question everything. But what is he suspicious of? Her letter? Before he knows it, Rosner finds himself laughing. Why is he worried? There's no chance her letter and what happened to Casper are related. As he continues to wait for Ylsa, his mind begins to drift. He lays down in the shade and looks up. A few lone clouds drift across the barren sky on a slow current of air. He concentrates on that current, smelling the faint saltiness in the air, mixed with grain, grapes, wine, and, unfortunately, manure.
"Good. You are here."
Rosner jumps to his feet and meets Ylsa's gaze. "Where have you been?"
"I had trouble with my family. Now, come on. I want to show you something."
She sticks out her hand, waiting for Rosner to take hold. He surprises himself by hesitating. After a second, Ylsa drops her hand.
"Everything okay?"
Rosner breathes, allowing the right words to form. Then, nothing. Only that something strange happened 2 days past. He reminds himself the two are not related. She cocks her head to the side, deciding whether to believe him or not. Her decision is quick.
"How about we talk about it once I show you this?"
Her excitement is toxic. His heart warms seeing her smile. Lead the way. Her smile grows and his heart skips a beat. What is wrong with him?
"Great," she says. "Follow me."
She takes them through some brush into a heavily traveled dirt path. Dragging him to the left, Ylsa says,
"Over here."
They continue to travel deep into the wood, passing grazing deer, skittish chipmunks, and squirrels jumping from tree to tree. Soon enough, the wood is alive with all sorts of creatures making their presence known. Eventually, Ylsa brings them to a stop. She looks at Rosner and smiles.
"You know, when all of the animals speak at once, I call it the chorus of the wood."
She turns in a circle, letting out a cheerful laugh.
"Beautiful, is it not?"
Rosner, with his eyes dancing from one spot in the wood to the next, shares a smile. "Quite." Then his mind drifts back to Casper, pleading for his life, and his smile fades. "But this is not what you wanted to show me, is it?" Ylsa lets out a small laugh, catching Rosner a little off guard.
"No, I wanted to show you this."
She walks forward through the brush and waves for Rosner to follow. He does so, but not before staring in shock as the foliage almost seems to part away from her, giving the illusion that she is gliding away from him.
Come on, we are almost there.
He casts aside his overactive imagination as he wanders behind her. Not far off the path, they come across a small pond. Cattails make a horseshoe around it, while lily pads spot its surface. Dozens of frogs peek their eyes above the water and watch the newcomers lazily before disappearing once more. Some climb onto lily pads and hop between them to the opposite side of the pool. Now that he is right next to them, he can hear the voices above all others. They croak a musical tune he has yet to hear, and one he doubts he will hear anywhere else. Each frog emits a unique sound that blends with the others seamlessly. The sound is enough to lull someone to sleep, if they had nothing to busy their mind with. Rosalind looks around in awe.
How did you find this place? I wander the wood often. I have found a handful like this, but this one is my favorite.
She stares with an absent mind. Rosner looks over at her and finds Ylsa concentrating on capturing a frog near the water's edge. As he makes his way over and places himself on the ground next to her, her hand comes down on the earth with one swift action. She slides her other hand under it and brings it up for both of them to see. Between a crack in her palms is a pair of beady eyes that stare at them. The slimy body of the frog refuses to move under either of their gaze, too frightened of what they might do. She sets the frog back down after staring at it a moment longer.
You know, I did not just send that hawk to say I wanted to show you this.
Rosner nods. I figured as much.
I'm leaving.
She might as well have slapped Rosner in the face.
What do you mean you're leaving?
Ylsa looks just as upset as he feels.
My parents. We never stay in one place too long.
For some reason, a fire burns inside of him. He stands up and slices his hand through the air.
But you cannot go. Not after what happened.
And like that, he has Ylsa's full attention. For the briefest moment, her eyes become cold and serious. A gentle sense of worry quickly washes over.
What do you mean?
Rosner hesitates again before speaking. There is something about her initial reaction that makes him uncomfortable, and the way her voice sounds does not help. However, he somehow manages to convince himself she will just be as surprised and dumbfounded as he was. He tells her about the fountain, now he thought it was nothing. Then he mentions how, after that, Casper started acting strange, up until the old man disintegrated the remaining husk of the butcher. After he is done, she remains silent. He begins to wonder if it was a good idea to tell her the story when Ylsa says something under her breath. Curious, Rosner asks.
What did you say?
Ylsa looks at him wide-eyed, apparently surprised he heard her. She stumbles over her words before finally saying,
Nothing. I need to go.
She pushes herself off the ground and strides back the way they came. Rosner follows, and on the path seizes Ylsa's arm.
Why the sudden rush?
Ylsa shrugs his hand away and begs him.
Please, Rosner. I must go. Now!
Before he can say anything else, she runs in the opposite direction of where they came from. Just before she disappears around a bend, she stops and turns around. Before Rosner can act, she calls out to him.
Take care of yourself. What is going on?
Rosner shouts after her. Ylsa, back to him, freezes. Without looking over her shoulder, she answered in a pained tone.
You will find out soon enough.
Then she disappears. He chases after her, but once Rosner reaches the bend, Ylsa is nowhere to be found. All the way back to the mill, Rosner thinks over what happened. At least he would, if he could figure out exactly what happened. Up until she said she was leaving, he felt what he was witnessing was a true wonder. A girl he might have a chance to know. But deep down, he cannot help but admit he had a feeling there was a sliver of something untold. Ever since they first met, there was something that did not fit quite right. Now he cannot help but feel he has confirmed that theory. He just wishes he knew what she was hiding. When he reaches the village the following day, the life-giver is well past half her descent. His eyes graze over the market. Not many of the stalls are open, just a few stragglers rushing about. This much is not surprising. What is an oddity is those who remain are not saying a word. There are no shouts to attract customers. There is no haggling, but there is shouting. Rosner looks past the market, and before he realizes it, he has Creekbed at a gallop towards the Weeping Castle. The ancient structure towers behind him, but Rosner pays it no attention. His eyes are on the new ship in the harbor, and the trouble it brought with it. If it was not for the massive number of soldiers, Rosner would have turned around and gone home. But this one has 2 or so dozen patrolling the deck. Even more file out of the hole and swarm the pier, clearing it of its inhabitants. Those that move too slow or refuse to move at all are thrown into the water. Within seconds, the entire eastern docks are cleared of villagers and travelers, and the soldiers do not stop there. They start clearing out the eastern part of the Snake's Den. One by one, Rosner watches merchants numbering a small fleet leave the harbor. When some start to veer to the island, Rosner realizes they are unmanned. Ships that the soldiers now see as trespassing on their expanded, restricted area are pushed off to the sea with their sails wide open. Merchants can be seen ditching their stands to save or chase after their ships. Some of those who were already on their ships when the Van Marian came in have set sail. Rosner watches everything in disbelief. It seems like the world has turned upside down. Why are the soldiers being so aggressive? Plenty of shipments have come in, but not one has had this effect. It seems whatever they are carrying, the High King must truly prize. Then he spots a black sail amid white. At first, he swears he has seen things, but then a second and a third appear. Even as he thinks about the idea, Rosner cannot help but laugh. No, they would not run. Not if what is to be said of them is true. The ruthless bunch would not run if they faced a giant, and there was gold to be had. So, why are they leaving? Do they know something no one else does? That night, Rosner wakes to screaming. Confused, he looks out the window above his bed. Behind the tree line, an angry red glow lights up the night sky. It seeps into his room like an eerie shadow. Casey growls, but he pays her little attention. She hates it when he moves in the night. For a moment, he finds himself mesmerized by the glow. Then a large shape streaks by the edge of the light. Rosner rubs his eyes and looks again. Nothing. He must be more tired than he thinks. Even so, he continues to stare. When nothing new happens, he tries to go back to sleep. But how can he? Seconds later, he heads out the front door, careful not to wake anyone. The coolness of the night breeze slams into his face, waking him up. After shaking free of shock, Rosner makes his way down the path under the entry arch. As he climbs the hill, the smell of burning wood reaches his nose. The faint cries he had heard earlier now ring with clarity. The night's cool touch now blends with the radiating heat. To his left, a fierce red glow dances off the castle against the surrounding darkness of the night. The statue, a solid black silhouette against the fiery night sky. When he finally reaches the top of the hill, Rosner is tempted to turn on his heels. The ship that had made port earlier in the day now stands in flames. Giant tongues of fire raise from the deck and slowly lick up the dock and nearby ships. A burst of fire erupts from the crow's nest. After a brief pause, someone shouts something Rosner swears he hears incorrectly. Dragon! Dragon? That cannot be possible. They have never been sighted around here, and they are a rarity to begin with. And above all else, what purpose would one have to come here and set a ship ablaze? Above the roaring fire, an eerie creak resonates, quickly turning into a heavy groan. Seconds later, the crow's nest breaks free and falls to the deck, throwing up huge flames amid multiple small explosions. Rosner turns his back to the inferno. Seconds pass before a blistering wave of heat blasts past him. He glances back and sees nothing but a ball of fire on the water's surface. He rises to his feet and stares at the inferno, watching the flames consume what they can before deciding to return home. There is no point in him staying here. The fire will go out soon enough. Though it is a shame those who are in the ship's hull have little chance of surviving. But what can he do? Before he turns around, the heat disperses and gives way to the cool whisper of the wind. The sudden change in temperature roots him to the spot. Then Rosner hears a woman's voice. Although he cannot understand it, he can feel its gentle touch caress his ears, vibrating his entire body. Then all at once, it stops. An uneasiness sets over Rosner. He stands there, waiting for something to pop up at him, but nothing happens. Before him, the blaze still burns bright and fierce. The tower above peeks out between the thick smoke, the color of blood as the fire reflects off its surface. Before he takes a step, the voice returns, loud, clear, and right behind him. Watch and learn. Rosner spins on his heels. From its pedestal, the statue stares at him with a pair of crystallized eyes. From his staff, a ball of fire flies at him. Rosner throws his arms in front of his face and screams. A strong, cold breeze blows past Rosner and wraps around him like a loose blanket. Filled with shock, Rosner opens his eyes and finds himself in a flaming vortex. He starts to panic. His breathing becomes uneven. What is going on? Before he can answer his own question, the vortex disperses. Rosner finds himself in what he can only describe as a throne room. Tapestries line the walls depicting battles against humans and what Rosner believes to be demons of Voss. Others show wars against giants, minotaurs, and creatures of the sea and air, all waging their might against the human race. 8 marble pillars hold up the domed ceiling of the massive room. Like the pillars, the walls and floors are marble. A long red rug leads up to a throne raised on a 5-tiered dais where a white-haired man sits. By the crown on the brow, Rosner figures he is a king, but he has no clue whose. Despite his old age, the man holds himself firm and erect. On either side of the king, 2 braziers glow bright red with dancing flames. Behind him, however, is the beauty of the room. A stained glass window stretches from floor to ceiling, spanning the width that separates the pillars. It depicts a large tree with a platinum dragon curled up at its base. Above it, 7 gold dragons can be seen, either in the tree or flying nearby. Unlike the king, Rosner understands this. The tree represents the tree of life, while the platinum dragon is Bahamut, the dragon king. Above Bahamut are his guardians, 7 of the most powerful gold dragons. A chorus of shouts from the hallway steals Rosner's attention. He runs to hide behind one of the pillars. From here, he watches a lone soldier enter the room and bar the oak doors behind him. His plated armor with gold trim looks like it has never been in battle. Not a dent disrupts its smooth, reflective surface. His short, jet black hair is pressed flat against his head. His helmet is nowhere to be seen. As the oak bar falls in place with a loud thud, the soldier takes a moment and leans against the door, catching his breath. The king rises from his throne as the man enters and immediately demands him to leave. Despite his frail appearance, his voice shakes Rosner's chest. Even though he knows the king is not speaking to him, if Rosner can find a way to leave the room, he will in a heartbeat. The soldier, however, hardly seems to notice the king's presence, not until he assures himself the door is secure.
"Captain, have you not heard?" "I have heard you,"
the captain answers in an even tone, throwing his weight into the bar. Then, as an afterthought, with a crooked smile, he says over his shoulder, "I guess your messenger was not fast enough to reach the outer gates. Would you have me believe you would truly dismiss my attendance with you?"
"Yes, I would, Captain. Similarly, I would have you watch your tone as well as your tongue when addressing me."
The captain, taken back by the comment, gives a slight bow and an apology, but presses further. "Your Highness, the orcs."
"I am well aware of the situation with the orcs,"
the king informs him, making his way back to the throne.
"And as I gave in my order, which I trust you read, we are not to strike them or those aligned with them."
Rosner watches the frustration within the captain begin to boil. He opens his mouth to argue, but the king is quicker with his tongue.
"And no, I do not care what your scouts say about them gathering troops. When the life-giver seats her throne, a treaty shall be signed."
Then in a lower tone,
"We were once united. We will be once more."
whatever is brewing in the captain overflows.
"Are you saying a truce has been discussed?"
The captain growls. A moment of silence passes between them. Outside, muffled shouts can be heard until they are muted by the captain's chuckle.
"My king, you cannot be... Who is in here with you?"
The king raises an eyebrow.
"What do you mean? There is no... Do not lie to me. And you do not question my judgment!"
The king shouts back, throwing himself from his throne. But the captain does not react. In fact, he is not even paying the king any attention. Unable to help himself, Rosner follows the captain's gaze to the far pillar on his side. Almost mimicking him is a tall woman in a black cloak. Everything but her hair and lips are covered from a hood. Something tells him he knows her, but he does not know why. The long, curly brown hair covering half her face gives little away. Then she turns her hood towards him. Rosner's skin prickles. She cannot possibly be staring at him. He tells himself she is looking at something else, but is quickly proven wrong. The king shouts at the captain, but Rosner does not waver. He watches the woman slip further behind the pillar, out of the captain's sight. Just before she slides out of his, she raises a thin finger to her red lips. The corner of her mouth curves into a smile. A second later, the captain replaces her.
"Here!"
he exclaims. Fear grips Rosner's chest, and he slides a little further back behind the pillar. A deep rumble resonates throughout the throne room. All three people in the room look at the doors. Muffled yells follow, then another rumble as the door shakes. Still behind his pillar, Rosner waits for the doors to break open in desperate hope that it will free him from this horror. Nothing about it makes sense. He does not even know whose throne room he is in. Wait. This must be a dream. But how do you wake yourself up from a dream? He does not remember falling asleep. Maybe this entire night is part of his wild imagination.
"She was right here, watching us,"
the captain shouts over the rumble.
"Now she has gone up and... What are you playing at?"
The king, bewildered by such a question, narrows his eyes.
"Of what do you speak of, Captain?"
The captain remains silent, appearing deep in thought. Oddly enough, the silence sends chills down Rosner's back. He counts 3 giant raps on the doors before the captain replies. When he does, Rosner swears he can taste the venom dripping from his words.
"You sent her after me."
The king stands his ground.
"Would you care to humor me with whom I have sent after you, and for what purpose?"
The captain approaches the king with long, purpose-filled strides.
"Do not play dumb with me. You have no clue who you are dealing with. You sent this woman to keep an eye on me, make sure I was not doing anything you did not order."
Disgust grows on the captain's face.
"You truly believe me to do such a thing?"
Despite his expression, however, Rosner watches the old king take a small step back. A small, crooked smile plays on the captain's lips.
"Yes, I do."
In one swift movement, he grabs the king by his neck and lifts him up with a single hand. Gritting his teeth, the captain says,
"I have had it with you and your rules. You have lost your sense of reason and knowledge of life, and I think your replacement is long overdue."
As he talks, the captain walks down the dais as if showing off the king to an invisible crowd. Unfortunately for Rosner, he wishes the captain stayed where he was. Now that the man faces the door, Rosner has a clear view of the captain's eyes. Once they were a fierce green. Now, peering into the very soul of the king, are a pair of deep blue eyes with the light mist wavering off them. The king claws at the hand holding him up, but soon finds it useless. Letting himself hang, the king attempts to shake his head.
"No,"
he chokes.
"It is you who have lost the sense of knowledge and reason of life."
It sounds like the king says a name, but in that moment the doors break open. Before Rosner can blink, the king erupts in flames and flies at the soldiers, where he explodes in a giant wall of fire that stretches to the ceiling. From the other side, Rosner hears orders being shouted alongside cries of agony. Above, the gems decorating the dome's ceiling glisten with the light of the hateful fire.
"Hey, little boy."
Rosner freezes. It is the captain's voice. Panic sets in. He cannot be talking to him. He must be addressing someone else. Yet, the more he thinks about it, the more he doubts himself. Slow with fear, Rosner lowers his gaze until it comes face to face with the captain and his wicked grin. Unable to control himself, Rosner stumbles backwards. The captain follows, sweeping Rosner off his feet by the neck. The captain pulls Rosner up to his face while Rosner struggles to breathe. The captain's deep, purple eyes seem to burn into Rosner's very soul as he whispers,
"Now, who might you be?"
He shifts Rosner's head side to side in his hand, examining him.
You're not a page,
the captain says absently.
a newly acquired servant, perhaps. Tell me, who are you?
Whether it is fear that keeps him silent or the crushing pressure of the hand around his throat, Rosner cannot tell. Either way, though, he tries to speak. Nothing comes out. He claws at the hand, but the captain hardly notices.
A mute,
He guesses.
suppose there is no need to kill you then, since you cannot share this tale.
He lazily tosses Rosner to the side and walks towards the throne. Rosner skids across the floor and battles for aid when he stops.
Do you know who this is?
It is the same voice as before. Rosner coughs viciously before offering a weak.
No.
Halfway to the throne, the captain turns around. He bears a nasty grin with him.
So, he does speak. This is who you are destined to fight. Your victory will ensure the survival of all there is to come.
Rosner grits his teeth.
What are you talking about?
Then the voice emanates from the room itself.
Prepare yourself, brother. This one will be your undoing.
After the first word is muttered, the captain's grin is replaced with malice.
Why wait?
He demands. Then he unsheaths a longsword and stalks back to Rosner.
Patience.
The air around Rosner grows cold again, and flames jump around him, cutting off the captain from his view. His rageful howl blends with the wind whipping around Rosner. In a single heartbeat, the night sky reappears. Fear holds Rosner to the spot. He cannot think to begin to understand what he just witnessed. Good? Bad? Who knows? Was any of that real? In the corner of his eye, Rosner sees the fire still raging on the ship. The shouts of pain and panic echo up from the water. The strong scent of the felled trees worked by skilled craftsmen ride the cool night breeze off the sea and takes control of his senses once more. Only now does he realize the truth of it. What happened was real.